Hello, David here, coming to you live as I do every Wednesday when there is no Met by Grace show. I'm live right now, and I'm broadcasting from Wakanda, somewhere in beautiful Africa. I'm ready to get into today's podcast, and today's podcast, which is episode 5. I am gonna be dealing with depression. Not the most exciting subject, but very helpful, I would like to believe, to somebody out there. And so get ready as we get into today's broadcast, wherever you're joining us from. And welcome, Grace Church Global family, wherever you are. Welcome, friends from around the world. And I send you sunshine from the beautiful continent of Africa. But it's a good day to be alive. And we're going to be digging into some helpful stuff tonight, and we'll be here for a short while, as I normally do on the Wednesday. But today we're dealing with depression. We're dealing with depression. That kind of rhymes. It was a bit of a mouthful. But you're welcome, guys. Come on in. I'm not sure that I can see your comments, but if you can, please go ahead and share this link with somebody else, and let somebody know that I'm live and that I'm ready to get into some useful and helpful stuff today as we deal with the issue of depression. I hope you're ready. So, because I'm not preaching, I'll just begin. About 10% of people around the world are affected by depression. And so, this is a real issue that cannot be ignored, a real issue that we do need to deal with. 10% is a big number. We are talking about 800 million people are affected by depression worldwide. And so it is a large number. I don't even think there are very few countries, about 2 countries in the world, that have about 80 million people in them. But globally, those are just the numbers of people that we know about, or people that we know of. And so I'm going to quickly dig into this very important subject and see if we can give somebody understanding out there. And you might be watching me right now and you're saying, David, I deal with that myself on a personal level. Or you might be there saying, I know somebody who goes through this and who deals with this, and this might be helpful to them. And so in that case, you can still share the link with them and let them know that I'm dealing with an issue that they might benefit from. You don't have to tell them that an issue that affects them. You can just say you might find it interesting, and maybe they might too. Okay, let's see if we can do this together. So to start with, what is depression? Depression can be described as a mood disorder. It can be described as a mood disorder that causes persistent feelings of a loss of interest and sadness. And so it is a mood disorder which results or causes a persistent feeling of sadness and or a loss of interest in most of the things that a lot of people are naturally interested in life. And this would ultimately lead to a significant impairment in your daily lifestyle. And so that is the way you would describe depression. I'm dealing with this one as a follow-up to our emotional intelligence segment of the episode. Last week we dealt with anger management, and today we just want to look a little bit about this issue called depression. And most of it is as a result of an imbalance in neurotransmitters. There are a few causes to depression, one of them being an imbalance to chemicals in your body, or neurotransmitters or hormones. And that's why some of the medication that you have is introduced in order to bring that balance within your body and your system. Also, some other things that might cause depression are personality traits. And some people have a personality that maybe have a loss of esteem. And if you're that inclined, you're most likely to develop depression in your life. And it affects pretty much a lot of people. So if you're affected by it, or you go through it, this is no judgment at all. This is just, I'm just here as your friend, just to help you navigate through these waters when and if you ever should ever go through them. Another cause of depression might be a traumatic or stressful experience or event in your life. Maybe you lost a loved one. Maybe it was an accident that brought this about. Whatever it is, it could be a traumatic event. It could be a breakup. It could be a relationship issue, whatever it is, whether it caused a lot of excessive stress or a traumatic experience that could lead to depression. Alcohol and drugs, that's another thing that could lead to depression. Loneliness can lead to depression. Menopause, menopause can and does often lead to depression, and sometimes it might linger a little bit while you're going through that. And obviously, the chemical imbalance would fall under illness as depression. Family history. Genetics has proven that if there is a history of depression in the family, you could be predisposed to it. So that could be another issue. Maybe I'll give one more cause for it, and that would be pregnancy. Actually, women that are either pregnant or have given birth, so it can work both ways, prenatal and postnatal depression. And so these are some of the few causes that I can just give you that you might find yourself going through depression as a result of. Now, very quickly, how do you know that you're suffering or going through depression or you're affected by it? What kind of things would you naturally go through in order for you to pick up, also known as symptoms? So I'll give about 10 of them. There are a few of them, and maybe out of these 10, you might recognize some of them and you might identify with some of them. And if you do, don't panic. There is help. Again, by the time we're done today, I'll give some tips of how you can deal with it by yourself or with help. So number one, a social withdrawal. Where you just don't feel like hanging out with anybody. Social withdrawal is a sign of depression or a symptom. Fatigue or a lack of energy, not because you're tired like me, but fatigue or a lack of energy can be a sign of depression. Reduced appetite. You might not want to eat. Reduced appetite. In fact, a loss of appetite is the most common symptom of pretty much almost any illness. But reduced appetite can be a symptom of depression. Number four, anxiety, restlessness, or agitation can be a symptom of depression. Number five, feelings of sadness and tearfulness. You just feel teary or you're feeling sad. It can be a sign of depression. Not necessarily saying that any of these are a definite sign of depression, but they can be. Number six, feelings of emptiness or hopelessness. This can be a sign of depression. I think that's number six. Number seven, feelings of worthlessness, where you just don't feel you're worth anything. That can be a sign of depression. Number eight, feelings of guilt or self-blame, especially if you're caught up and stuck on your past mistakes and you consistently blame yourself for things that happened a long time ago. It can be a sign that you're probably experiencing very low mood and possibly depression. Number nine, feeling suicidal or having suicidal thoughts, maybe even attempting it. And even when somebody successfully commits suicide, it can be determined as a result, it happened as a result of depression. And so feeling suicidal, you just feel like there's no point to live here. That can be a sign of depression. You want to have that looked at, and you don't want to ignore those thoughts and those feelings. And number 10, and the last one for symptoms, there are a few others, but I just give 10 today. Feeling irritable all the time or getting angry, having angry outbursts and extreme frustration. This can be a sign of depression, and it is some form of defense mechanism. Now, if you're experiencing any of these things I just read out, it doesn't necessarily mean automatically that you're depressed, but there's a very good chance that you might be. So how do you decide or determine when to get help or whether it is a real problem? If it is affecting your way of life and how you function, then you know that this is definitely toxic and that you need help. And I'm going to give a few pointers just now. After this symptom part, I will give some keys on how you can get treatment or help with depression. And if you know anybody who is dealing with this or is experiencing this, this is very useful, and please let them know. Let them have this link. It's going to stay on Facebook, it's going to stay on YouTube, and on my website, davidkaluba.com, and they can go there and watch it again and again just to get a grip of it. I'm just giving the highlights and not all of it so we can keep this nice and short. Now, how do you diagnose depression? How do you diagnose depression? Apart from the symptoms I've given, which you can kind of gauge and you can self-refer after. If you look up the things I've pointed out, you think maybe I need help, you can refer yourself. But diagnosis is usually done using different methods. You can get diagnosis through a physical examination. You can get diagnosed through a lab tests where your blood is actually tested, or you can get a diagnosis through a psychiatric evaluation by a professional. And that will also give you an answer. Or alternatively, like most people like to do these days, I have one of these manuals. Most professionals are now using the DSM, DSM-5, which is a diagnostic tool, also known as diagnostic statistical manual for mental disorders. It is one that was published by the American Psychiatric Association, and most professionals, I use it myself. I use it to diagnose most of mental health conditions, and depression falls under that category. And so you can be diagnosed in any of those ways. So don't go around self-diagnosing. However, if you feel any of these symptoms are quite, prevalent in your life, you might want to seek help. So very quickly, let's see if we can move on to treatment. This is probably going to be one of the shortest podcasts I've ever done. David is tired, so he's going to keep it nice and short. So treatment. How do you get a treatment for depression? I will put down 10 for you guys. And these are enough choices for now, even though they're not exclusive, because I'm sure there is more. However, I will not be giving any actual medication, if you like, or prescriptions for you, because it is dangerous to do so, because everybody's case is different. So nobody can come up and just give you medicines that you need to treat depression without examining you, because that would be very dangerous. Number one, for treatment method for depression, most of them will be natural things that you can do without resorting to clinical medicine. Number one, face your fears. And what do I mean by facing your fears? I know that people say facing your fears means do the thing that you're most scared of, or go and face a lion or snake or whatever, if that's what you're scared of. But when I talk about facing your fears, I'm talking about asking yourself the question, what is the worst that could happen? So the thing that is making you feel low and depressed, ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen? And then after you answer that, ask yourself, and then what? And then after that, ask yourself, and then what? Until you exhaust all the and then what's and then what's. This is how you face it head on. That's how you face your fears, the best and most effective way. You will be surprised to find that after you've asked all these questions, it is not as bad as you thought it was. Number two, stay connected. In other words, do not isolate yourself. There is a natural tendency when you're feeling low and depressed to want to isolate yourself socially from friends, from family, but that is the last thing you want to do. So number two, stay connected. Number three, stay active. Do some exercise. It can lift your mood. Okay, take small steps. Don't overdo it to start with. You're gonna just exasperate your muscles and be achy and give up. But one day at a time, baby steps. Do some exercise. Have an active lifestyle. It affects the hormonal imbalance and balance in your body, and how neurotransmitters are released, and it releases certain hormones. Exercise helps you to give you the happy hormones that you need to counter the low mood. So exercise is a good thing. You don't have to drive everywhere. You don't have to always sit down and send your kids to do everything for you. Do some exercise. It'll be good for you. Number four, have regular eating habits. Have regular eating habits, because sadness and unfortunately some antidepressants or antidepressants, depending on where you come from in the world, antidepressants, they can have an effect on your appetite, and that includes low mood itself, and depression itself can affect your appetite. And so make sure you have a regular eating habit, as this will help you stay on top of that low mood. Number five, have a stable routine, and that this includes your sleeping patterns. If they're erratic and all over the place, this will not help. You have a stable routine, get into a system or a pattern of when you go to sleep and when you wake up. Wake with your biological clock in this sense, and it will help you stabilize your mood and the chemicals, neurotransmitters in your body. Number 6, seek professional help if need be. If you need counseling or psychotherapy or whatever you need, seek professional help. I'm not one of those pastors who's going to tell you, oh, we're just going to pray for you and lay hands. No, if you need professional help, get help. Okay, I know God says, listen, come talk to me about it, and come call unto me and I'll answer you. And that's a good thing. So when you're feeling low, if you want to talk to God, you can talk to God, and that is fine, and that is brilliant. But God gave us human beings so that we are not alone, that we got somebody we can talk to. So even if you can't afford a professional, you can talk to your trusted friends or trusted family. But whatever you do, seek help if you need to get help. Number 9, avoid alcohol and drugs. Okay, if you're feeling sad, low mood, and prone to depression, alcohol and drugs will exasperate the situation. You want to stay away from those guys. Number 8, take prescription medication if need be for a short season, and that has to be under the supervision of a medical professional. So if your doctor prescribes something, that is okay. And like I said at the beginning, I won't give you any medications or mention any of them on this program, on this podcast, but I'll just mention that it is okay to get medical intervention for a season, for a while. Now, they don't solve the problem because there's always a root cause to this. What they do is they treat the symptoms and help you regulate the hormones in your body so that you can be at least stable and be able to function temporarily. Most of them are addictive, so you don't want to stay on them too long and become dependent on them. And so this is a temporary measure, and that is why I just put it somewhere near the end of my solutions, because it is not my number one choice. The natural choices are my number one choice, because those can be affected without you getting into another problem, which is an addiction to these prescription medicines, which they have the ability to do. Where am I? Number 9. We only have 2 more to do, and then I'll let you guys go. I promised you this was going to be one of my shortest ones. Number 9, practice self-help. Practice self-help. One of the things I've discovered you can do is teach people CBT, a bit of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which you can get with a professional, but you can also be taught and be trained, or you can learn to do yourself. So this is where it helps you examine the way you think and the way you look at life, the way you look at things. And you can be able to predetermine triggers to low mood and depression when you understand yourself. You almost like self-regulate, like self-talk, and you learn those breathing techniques. You learn those changing your thinking. And I've been talking about transformational thinking around the globe, wherever I've gone, and I'm so passionate about it. But under this section, number 9, where you practice self-help, you can do some CBT, you can do some transformational thinking, where the things that make you feel low, when you begin to identify those triggers, you can get ahead of them and you can mitigate them before they get you lower and down. Now, not all depression is extremely terrible, because some of it can be diagnosed as clinical depression. There are different types and different levels. But when you know how to self-regulate, you can identify issues or triggers before it gets out of hand. And let me give you the last one. Number 10, join a support group if you can. Okay, now when I say join a support group, I'm not saying go find somebody else who's depressed and go, oh, me too, and then you together you team up and now you're even double depressed, both of you. And that's not what I'm talking about. So when I talk about a support group, make sure it is somebody that is strong enough to support you. Don't go and team up and buddy up when both of you are dealing with the same issue. Now, it might be okay once in a while to talk to somebody who has gone through the same things you've gone through, but not somebody who is equally depressed at the same time, because it's like the blind leading the blind. Both of you will end up in a ditch. You can talk to somebody who has been through it. That is brilliant. But even more important, a supportive friend, an understanding friend, or a supportive family member, understanding family member, talk about it. Have a support group. If you're a Christian, even though I'm not preaching tonight, of course, talk to God about it. Tell him about how you feel. And if you've got nobody to talk to at the moment, until you find somebody, get a journal. Begin to write down your thoughts. Write down how you're feeling. Write down why you think you feel the way you feel, and then get to the bottom of it by writing more questions and more questions. So why do I feel like this way? And how did this start? And how did this get triggered? You might even discover that by keeping a journal, you will realize that there is a pattern in your life, and there are certain things that always lead you to that place of low mood and even depression. And once you see that pattern, you can begin to do the self-help I was talking about, where you can mitigate the situation before it gets out of hand, and you can get ahead of it. You can begin to change those habits and those thought patterns and those practices that are leading you to the same place of low mood and depression by just keeping a diary. So if you find that any of those symptoms I get are affecting you, perhaps it's a good idea to actually pick up a diary. Begin to write down why, when, and why you feel the way you feel. Listen, guys, I told you this was going to be nice and short, and I'll let you guys go. I just wanted to tell you, we've talked about tonight, we've talked about what depression is, we've talked about what causes it, we've talked about the symptoms, we've talked about how to diagnose it, we've talked about treatment and how to overcome and deal with it. I hope this has been helpful. I cannot see your comments, but I love you guys. I appreciate you. I'll see them immediately after this broadcast. I appreciate each and every one of you that is on this broadcast. God bless you. And I will see you live again for our next podcast. I believe I'm live next Wednesday from the United Kingdom. And so it will be, I'll be in my habitat, in my studio, my office. It'll be totally different. But I'm excited and I'm looking forward to that. Hey, my Grace Church Global family, love you guys, miss you guys, looking forward to seeing you. And my family in Zambia and in Africa and other parts of the world, listen, love you guys, appreciate you, and I will see you shortly. Keep safe, keep warm over here. The rains have started, so it's not as hot as it has been. It's cooled down a bit, which is brilliant. And I'm sure over there in England, you guys are in the cold, but I'm sending you sunshine and lots of love. God bless you. Ciao for now. Ciao, ciao. I will see you on Sunday, actually, Grace Church Global Family. See you on Sunday. Thank you, Pastor Darren, for that great word on Sunday. I'll be preaching on Sunday. See you guys soon. Stay blessed. Ciao for now. Ciao, ciao.